Hi, this is Alexcursus, a show where I take a look at some Gunpla and see how authentic they are. This time we are looking at the HG which from Mercury 12144 MD-0031, the Dilanza. Dilanza is developed by the Jeturk heavy industry and it is their most successful product so far. Unlike other mobile suit manufacturer in Estella, who design very slick and agile mobile suits to optimize their flexibility, Jada sort of went the opposite direction, focusing on armor and power. The result is this chonker. Despite being so chunky, Dilanza is not a slow mobile suit. With all the extra power and internal volume, it can generate a lot more thrust than other mobile suits in the same market space. I'll be rating this kit with Saga, style, action, gimmick, and absence. Style is how much does the mobile suit resemble its counterparts in the anime, manga, games, or other media. And being from a rather recent series, Dilanza looks pretty much one-to-one to its anime design. Now, the 1:144 scale may make it a bit slimmer than the illustrations, and I built this Dilanza in Lauda's configuration, where he have two shields on the shoulders instead of just one, and a more elaborate antenna on the head. Dilanza's overall design isn't out of ordinary for Gundam, but its optics design is quite unique. Most mobile suits, despite their multi-spectrum main sensors, they usually stick with one color for their visors, or they might have multicolor eyes. In case of the Dilanza, it actually have a wider purple band and then the narrow green band as multi-spectrum optical sensors. The head is quite a modern design. Antenna being its own part, and then the top half with the top of the frill, sandwiching the eye or head internals down to the chin and the face, and the bottom of the head. The chest is quite huge, again because Jeturk is going for power and armor here. The white part and the purple part are separate colors, and the front back sandwich is covered by a top cover. So you don't really see seam lines until you go for the armpit. Cockpit is in the middle of the chest with a very heavy-duty hatch leading down to it, surrounded by, again, thick armor of the torso. The waist is pretty much dedicated for the mobile suit's movement. Down to the skirts, there's no side skirt, but very thick armor thighs. On the front skirt, you can see quite lots of apogee motors and thrusters. The Dilanza's back skirt is pretty substantial, with quite a bit of thrusters installed as well. Continue to the legs, knee thruster pretty much exists for most mobile suits in Estella, and then a bit more intake near the end of the trouser. This is the hovering mechanism, so that the Dilanza have extra lift near the ground to maintain its speed in astral bodies or even down on Earth. And yeah, Dilanza's foot look relatively small compared to its lower leg, but yeah, it's quite substantial as well, with a pretty much heavy duty foot joint. Bottom scoped with thruster as well. Going to the back, we got more thruster at the back, and you can see the transmission cable behind the knees. While we are talking the knees, there is a detailed cover for the knee joint in the front as well. Onto the arms, the shield on the side have quite a bit of scope, and the back of it have quite a bit of scope as well. The shoulder is quite plain, but with very clear geometry. Single piece bicep, followed by a elbow armor guard, and the forearm have a embossed line for the assembly gap, and a side cover as well in separate color and piece. Backpack is relatively simple, with more antennas at the back, and then a separate color for the main thruster. Overall, color separation and part separation of the Dilanza is pretty good, except for the legs. As you can see here, is pretty much just a regular front and back clamp with a line basically going straight down, aside from the thruster that have the thruster guard separation. Otherwise, it is just a straight down. Ironically, the foot is a lot more elaborate. There is a heel cover to cover the base of the foot. That's why you get this gray, dark gray bottom of the foot with a pale green cyan jade heel in the same color as the rest of the armor. The toe is basically a single piece that just go on to the rest of the foot, so you hardly see any assembly gap down here. The arm also closes up quite well where in static poses, and for action poses it covers most of its joints as well. There are some hollow at the side of the back skirt, like the main back skirt have a interscope piece with quite a bit of details, but the side is just hollow. Not a big deal, you don't really see it anyways, unless you're doing this number. Otherwise, it's pretty concealed. I guess you can say the shoulder armor going into the shoulder joint is exposing this open gap here, but it's not terribly distracting. I wouldn't hold against it. So yeah, basically the overall proportion is good, overall color separation is good, just some odd part separation, and unfortunately on quite a large area of the kit as well. I think they made a wrong call to have such an elaborate foot. They should have invested this part counts onto the rest of the legs. However, as we will discuss in absence, it is not they did an overall good decision. Just for style, leaving this giant assembly gap that could be very noticeable depending on how you build it, and quite a bit of hollow, while not noticeable, but it is definitely a significant area. And oh, sticker sheet. The sticker sheet is also a killer. The eye, for some reason, Bandai opt to have the purple main object color stay as regular purple, and I have the green to be a different color, also the black For me, I would much prefer the parts to be green, and black is easy to paint, and then the actual purple optic is actually a sticker, much like the high grain, so that it's very reflective. Now we have the underside optics being shiny, but the main optics, the middle purple visor, is very dull. Also, this middle band for the shield needs color correction. I'm not sure they're doing it for the silver outlines, or they weren't going to cast the shield in black or dark gray. Either way, odd sticker sheets, not a killer, but enough to stack against the Dilanza. So yeah, between the large amount of holo, despite not being visible, some very large gap for the legs, again may not be super visible, but definitely significant. I have to knock down style of the Dilanza to A, despite being very accurate to the anime and definitely deliver the chunkiness that the Dilanza is supposed to have. Next is action. Action isn't about the number of articulations, but also how useful those articulations are. The Dilanza's head is on a double ball joint, pretty much the same as every other Gundam, but due to the way its head is mounted, but instead of a ball socket, it have a tube for the ball mount to go in, and I press all the way down for the ball mount. So my Dilanza can't really look up and down that much. But I wouldn't hold against it. It is still pretty flexible overall, just that, be aware how you assemble your Dilanza. Next is torso. It can actually get quite a bit of forward crunch. Backward crunch, the backpack stop it that straight. But yeah, forward, plenty of them. And then side swivel. Down to the legs, skirts, basically the same as every other HG. The connected ball that you can cut and give a bit more movement, but because of how chunky the Dilanza's legs are, it's barely going 30 directly to the front, but you do have 5 joints, so getting clearance. Let's get some more clearance from the arms. Getting clearance. Yeah, we can go further, but let's say excellent. 5 joints, as long as it's not to the front. The back skirt can move. Not a lot, but plenty more than most HG. And then the knee joint is a double joint. I need to move this leg off the way. Now, double jointed on the thigh and the chin, but yeah, because the legs are super chunky, you're getting, what is this, 90 there, 100-ish degree of knee. Definitely not enough to kneel dipped, but it would be enough. Let's move the X so that it's not resting on it, but it would be enough for the Dilanza to have a naturalish kneel down pose. That is, of course, before I play with the legs. Ball joint on the foot, and then I swivel right on this very heavy duty looking joint, and then toe movement. So despite being chunky and looking rather restrictive, Dilanza is actually pretty nimble, at least for stable bodily functions. Oh, sorry, um, arms. The shield can swivel left and right, and then it is a joint that can swivel up. This base socket can rotate as well, but it's out of alignment. Don't really need it until we are doing something fancy. Shoulder basically its own joint, and then push the shoulder arm out of the weight almost all the way to the back, and then to the front there is its own joint. But yeah, I mean, Dilanza's arm is pretty long, so you can go quite far forward. Okay. Oh, and yeah, the clearance for the shoulder arm is quite tight, so if you are doing this, you may block your way back. Okay, how did I do that? I was blocking the way back, but apparently not anymore. Okay. And then double joint elbow. Again, chunkiness stop it from doing all 180, but still 160. That's plenty, then enough. While not be able to do a deep kneel, we can check if Dilanza can be, yeah, Dilanza can do it. That is plenty good enough, I think. Yeah, back skirts can lift up, and then the side can go further as well. No movement for the main thruster, but it's hexy. Can't do much about that. Yeah, for such a chunky boy, Dilanza is very, very athletic, which is also blow accurate. I have to give it an S for action. Next is Gimmick. Gimmick would normally be the optional or onboard weapon for the mobile suit. In case of Dilanza, it would be the shields on the shoulder, or at least for Lauda's Dilanza, it would be the two shields, and then his double hit axe, and a bit more weapon on the side that we'll take a look at later. First, the axe on a round shaft, pretty long. Yeah, have both sides like it is a two-half construction. You can see the assembly line here right near the bevel, which isn't mirrored on the other side, but not distracting unless you keep flipping it around. Top of the axe, you can see it is sandwiched, but yeah, no obvious gap or hollows. As a hit axe, it should be able to glow red or even yellow, but since most HG hit axe doesn't have that edge, I wouldn't hold against it. It would be great if it does, but this kit does not. And it is easily long enough for Dilanza to hold with both hands. You do have to take off the hand armor to put the half in, but yeah, pretty good large axe. Now for regular Dilanza users, they would be using a beam saber for their melee needs. Yeah, it have its own special beam blade. Not terribly long, but very broad, very wide. The beam saber itself also have quite a large paddle leg core, which we'll see its use later, but for now, let's just see how stable this guy is. It is actually trying to watch out. Oh, here you go. Now for the authentic shake. No, the beam saber is not going anywhere. The axe is sort of moving, but you know, wrong half, you can't do much about that. And yeah, transparent beam blade, that is nice. And what's extra nice is you can store the beam saber inside the shield. Now the half exposed a little bit on here because Lauda's shield is slightly smaller than the regular one, but hey, it's a good way to carry your saber. Or more like broadsword, but you know, it's called beam saber. Next is a beam rifle, more like a carbine, but have a optic sticker that I use. And just like the beam saber, you plop this guy straight down. And yeah, Dilanza looks pretty good on Dilanza. Well, like, surprisingly. And what's nice is the magazine is removable. And what's even more nice is you can store the magazine again at the back of the shield. If you get more magazine, you can put one on this side as well. And just like the beam saber, the beam rifle can also be stored at the back of the shield. Again, most of it is exploded because Lauda's shield is smaller, but again, you have a storage. So we have been talking about how this is Lauda's configuration. Standard configuration will have this shield, which is also included in the kit. These are the plugs, and then the shield holder mechanism forms the plugs for the shield. I'm not going to exchange it, but yeah, it would cover the rifle better and fully cover the beam saber half. But yeah, standard shield included in the kit. And then regular Dilanza only have one shield, so you get a swivel cover for the other side. And then regular Dilanza wouldn't have this antenna. Presumably Lauda would be his squad leader, so he have the extra antenna or, you know, stabilizing fin, and regular guys just have a bland cover. And a regular antenna for the school geo, quite a bit smaller than Lauda's, presumably, you know, harder to be hit. So gimmick wise, not only can you build Dilanza, but also upgrade to Lauda's configurations. And between the regular parts and Lauda's own parts, you can do quite a bit of customization on your own. For example, you know, instead of using the two round shields like Lauda does, you can have a round shield and a regular shield for your own, and then, you know, have a regular antenna because, you know, you're not being a show-off or compensating in Lauda's case. The double hit axe is also very nice. Even a regular Dilanza with the double hit axe would look pretty beefy. And of course, separate beam saber effects, option to store the beam saber or the beam rifle into the shield. And what I have been yapping a lot about is the existence of removable magazine. Now, Bandai could have given us an additional magazine, but having one that's removable is a lot more than regular HG kits. So for Dilanza here, I have to give it an S for Gimmick. Last and certainly least is absence. Now this Dilanza kit is a regular release, so no P-Bandai clanglery, let's say, against it. And the biggest absence going for the Dilanza is it costs as much as most mass-produced mobile suits in the Witch from Mercury line. Hydrate costs the same. Zoot costs the same. Aside from a few very lean mobile suits and Ariel, who is, to protect Gundam, so it gets a bit of discount. Other than that, the Dilanza, despite how beefy, chunky it is, does not cost you an arm and a leg. This is a big fall in absence. Yes, I am not happy about the legs having very simple clamshells. I am kind of weirded out by the color choice on the optics. I am slightly thrown off by the part separation of the double X. But overall, and the holo at the back skirt, if we can see it. Aside from these relatively minor points, not much is missing on the Dilanza. You can argue that, Dilanza does not have the fire extinguisher that's prominent in the late episodes, but I feel that weapon is more suitable for a, say, school mobile suit expansion pack where there are like more tools, more options for mobile suits in the Astasia school that isn't, demi-trainer based. Yeah, absent-wise, I would give an S for Dilanza. Sure, you can find some fringe nitpicks for it, but for the price point, with all the gimmicks and the options, I can't fault it. Sure, I would say it probably pays if Bandai give the Lauda options and make the foot better, or the legs better. The foot is excellent, the legs could be better. I don't think this is the wrong direction. A cake clamshell, but it is simple to fix, and the knee joint is a C-clip, with the front cap being something you can install later. So you can definitely assemble, and do the seamless mode just for the thigh and the leg, then come back and assemble it relatively easily. Yeah, nothing is really amiss for Dilanza. So to recap, Dilanza being, a very new kit, have excellent part separation for the most part, excellent color separation, and the proportions are pretty accurate, if not more, to benefit the action side. Mostly good isn't perfect. There are some archaic part separation and then some rather large area of holo done as a cost saving. So it only gets an A for style despite being super accurate to the anime. Action, such a chunky boy who can stand on one leg easily and have very good upper body movement. It's an easy S. No argue about it. Gimmick, being able to mount both the beam rifle and the beam saber on the shield is great. Having an excellent large axe, that is great. Axe have low holo as well. And then the beam rifle once again have a removable magazine, and that magazine can be stored at the back of the shield. And with options for Lauda's custom as well as regular version, there's nothing missing here. Easy as. Absence, again, not the perfect style, and action is kind of inhibited by its own chunkiness, but it is done at a reasonable price point. For that balance, I definitely feel the Dilanza did much better than some other kits that the community likes a lot more. It is an as for absence, nothing really is amiss here. So the verdict for the HG which from Mercury 1 to 144 Dilanza is A for style, as for action, as for gimmick, and as for absence. Overall, a very good representation of Jeturk's style. Just being chunky, powerful, but not lacking in finesse. And it is a surprisingly good army builder kit as well. Sure, it's a bit more expensive than, say, the Leo, but it is on par with some other mass-produced mobile suits in the Witch from Mercury line or even other line, say Gundam the Origin. The concession it makes are for good reasons. And it is surprisingly easy to build. Again, being a modern kit with some modern part separation, but part, color separation as well. Like the chest, you cannot see any assembly line easily, aside from, again, under the armpits, which under, all these massive arms, legs, and weapons, you don't see. So for an army builder, even if you don't fix the legs, it's no big deal. I am looking forward to look at its mold brothers. What do you think? Leave a comment. Thanks for watching. See you next time.